If you were the pilot of a plane with 300 people on board and every last control system shut down, what would you do? No turning, no pitching up, no pitching down. Just your skills and expertise subject to the ultimate test. Only a few minutes after reaching cruising altitude on its way from Denver's Stapleton Airport to Chicago's O'Hare Airport, disaster struck on United Flight 232. Without warning, the number 2 engine of the DC-10 aircraft suffered a catastrophic failure. Unbeknownst to the pilots, the rotor disc had just shattered, sending shrapnel through the engine and causing a massive explosion. However, the biggest problem wasn't the loss of thrust in the engine. It was something much worse.
United 232 Heavy, City.
We have no hydraulic fluid, which means we have no elevator control, almost none, and very little aileron control. I have serious doubts about making the airport. Have you got someplace near there that we might be able to ditch? Unless we get control of this airplane, we're going to put it down wherever it happens to be.
United 232 Heavy, roger, standby 1.
The McDonnell Douglas DC-10 operates off of 3 independent hydraulic systems. Powered by pressurized fluids, these systems control all primary flight control surfaces, such as the ailerons, elevators, and rudder. They are designed to be fault-tolerant, to still be able to provide full operation and control as long as just one of the 3 systems works. The explosion of the number 2 engine happened at a very unfortunate position, an area where all 3 systems met very close together. Pieces of shrapnel cut through all hydraulic lines, immediately draining the fluid and causing a complete depressurization. And it was only seconds later when the captain realized that his hydraulic pressure gauge read 0.
Okay, so you know we have almost no controllability. Very little elevator and almost no aileron. We're controlling the turns by power. I mean, we can only turn right, we can't turn left.
United 232 Heavy, understand, sir. You can only make right turns?
That's affirmative.
He frantically moved his yoke, no response from the aircraft. He then tried the rudder pedals. Again, stillness. Without the use of hydraulics, the pilots realized that they could instead use the throttles to slowly steer the aircraft. Although limited and extremely tedious, it was possible and the only option they had. By increasing power in one engine but not the other, the aircraft would turn in the opposite direction, since that side would be producing more thrust. By decreasing both throttle levers, the aircraft would slow down and begin descending. Conversely, by increasing power in both engines, the aircraft would gain speed and begin to climb. However, this would be much easier said than done. To remain level, the aircraft had to fly at a very high speed. Also, asymmetric drag caused by the damage meant that the plane could only stably turn right. Anytime the pilots tried to correct by turning left, the plane would uncontrollably oscillate and worsen the situation. And so, via communication with air traffic control, the pilots decided to turn around and attempt an emergency landing at Sioux City's Gateway Airport. The pilots turned 180 degrees right and began flying a spiral pattern over western Iowa. They worked together to make 3 large looping turns in order to lose altitude and attempt to line up to land for runway 31. However, this was unsuccessful, as they only managed to line up with the shorter runway 22. Large dips and oscillations would occur every few seconds, but the pilots managed to pull the aircraft back into control each time. And so, just 10 seconds from touchdown, at a speed of 190 knots, everything was looking stable. They were lined up pretty much perfectly and descending at an appropriate rate as well. Just a few seconds from touchdown, the plane entered a sudden violent bank to the right. The pilots tried to correct, but it was too late. The right wing slammed into the ground, followed by the engine and landing gear. The aircraft was engulfed into a huge fireball, tumbling down the airfield. Seconds later, the mangled wreckage of the DC-10 came to rest in a nearby cornfield. The whole ordeal, from engine failure to crash landing, only lasted 44 minutes. In the end, 112 out of the 296 occupants passed away, and 117 people were injured. The pending investigation by the NTSB revealed some very interesting vulnerabilities in the manufacturing of the General Electric CF66D engines. According to the aircraft accident report, the probable cause of the shattering of the rotor disc was the failure to detect a fatigue crack originating from a previously undetected metallurgical defect. In other words, the engine had accumulated over 42,000 hours of operating time, and a long-term fatigue crack in the fan disc went unnoticed. The United Airlines flight manual had instructions on how to navigate a partial hydraulic failure, but nothing for complete loss of control. After the accident, officials knew they needed to add a page to the manual on what to do during this type of failure. But what would they even write? There was no procedure that could counteract this type of full control loss. As one United pilot stated, "We might as well write on it, good luck." The pilots of Flight 232 had never trained for this scenario. In fact, it was the first ever instance of a complete hydraulic shutdown on a commercial airliner. Despite this, they still miraculously managed to steer the crippled aircraft to a runway. And although it was a crash landing, the result was one of the best possible outcomes given the situation. The dreadful events on that day were no doubt terrible, but there was a silver lining to this tragic situation. As with all aviation accidents and their investigations, the aviation world is reformed for the better as a result. General Electric upgraded the rotor manufacturing process to an improved method that greatly reduced the chance of an internal flaw. The FAA thoroughly investigated all existing potentially faulty fan discs and replaced them promptly. McDonnell Douglas also took action, redesigning the hydraulic systems on DC-10s to be more redundant by implementing shutoff valves for fluid. It's no secret that maintaining safety in the aviation industry is no easy task. And although the crash of Flight 232 was undoubtedly a catastrophic event, it is important to acknowledge the value of learning from such accidents. Thorough investigations of aviation incidents have shaped the industry we see today, bringing aviation deaths from 17,000 fatalities in the 1980s down to just 4,000 in the 2010s. Anyways, that's pretty much it. Thanks and bye.